Very, very glad to have all of you here. We will start some introductions momentarily to the entire panel, and everyone will have a chance to give a few minutes welcome to you all, tell you a little bit about their area and so on. And then we will go into the Q&A. Please don't be shy. You can type your questions into the Q&A all along, even while people are doing their introductory remarks, but we may not respond to them until the introductory remarks are over. So just a forewarning there. And also, we probably will not be able to call on you if you put your hand up to do a verbal question. We will likely only be able to answer the questions that are in the Q&A. And also, sorry, one more caveat. If you are watching this on a streaming service that is not Zoom, we're not monitoring the questions there. So we are only really able to monitor either the questions you submitted ahead of time, which we do have, or the questions that are coming in using the Q&A question box on the Zoom. So thank you, everyone. It looks like our loading in of the webinar has slowed down and our attendees are here, so we will get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Gillian Hayes. I am the Dean of the Graduate Division, and hopefully you're all really excited and you're going to come and be our students here in the fall, at which point I get the privilege of being one of the deans that cares for you, with your school dean being the other who will really be there to support you and so on. We have a really exciting panel today who are going to hopefully talk about wonderful things that will make you want to join us, and also answer any of those questions that you have that are making you nervous in the background and all of that. As a reminder, each of our panelists will probably give you a few minutes introduction, and then we will go into the Q&A. So if you have questions, go ahead and put them into the question box. That's fine, and we will get to them shortly. But we got a lot of questions ahead of time about healthcare. No doubt, with the 2 years that we've all just been through, this is very much on our minds. So I want to start with Dr. Albert Chang, who's the head of our student health services. And then I'm going to go right into Dr. Marcelle Hayashida, who is the balance to Albert's health with all of our other health and wellness services. So over to you two.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Dean Hayes, for that introduction. As mentioned, so my name is Albert Chang. I'm the medical director here at the UCI Student Health Center. This is the complex you see behind me. And in my position, I've been in this position about a little bit over 5 years now. And our primary service is to provide healthcare and support to our students here on campus at UCI. Now, specifically for those students that have the UCI insurance plan, we are your PCP. So you should get to know us very well. Our primary care providers, our specialty providers, and use of our pharmacy, our laboratory, our radiology, or additional services. For those that do not have our insurance, you are still very welcome to utilize our health center. But there will be, certain services that are covered and certain services that aren't. So just making sure that your insurance plan is clear there. So we are on campus. We are open through the week and on weekends, and we're here for you all. Through this past year, you can imagine we've been at the forefront, for this past 2 years now, at the forefront of the COVID pandemic on campus, making sure that our students are safe, that we are doing that right best effort to protect every individual, providing vaccinations, performing testing, working very closely with our partners on campus to ensure housing, isolation, quarantine, communication, and all the smaller changes that happened as this has all evolved in front of us. It's really been fascinating. So I have a whole group of partners that work with us here at Student Health. We have partners across our campus, and we are all very excited to have you joining us. And so I'm looking forward to seeing you all as kind of things move forward. So I'll go ahead and wrap up there and hand it over to Marcelle.
Hi, everybody, and thanks, Dr. Chang. I have a little PowerPoint that I want to show you. So while we wait to load that up, I want to, first of all, congratulate you all on your acceptance to UCI. Really happy that at least you're seeing us if we can't see you. And I'm going to go rapid fire through all of the offices that report up through me in the Wellness, Health, and Counseling Services cluster. Next slide, please. So the first service that I want to talk about is our counseling center. You're going to hear this word over and over again. This word is free. There is no charge for any of the services at the counseling center. It is free for registered students, already paid for by your student fees. They offer individual counseling, couples counseling, family, single session, drop-in counseling appointments as well. There are drop-in groups like for mindfulness meditation, for supporting parents, for supporting Black men. If you're working on resilience skills or staying socially connected, there are services for you. Case management services as well. So there are social workers on site. And there's also crisis counseling and after hours. You can speak to a live person at any time of the day or night. They also offer workshop series and peer programs as well. The next center I want to discuss is our Disability Services Center, also free. And they offer disability management. If you are coming to grad school, for example, and you know that you have ADHD, or you have a medical disability, or you know that you're going to need accommodations for whatever it is, a medical issue, a hearing impairment, visual impairment, this is the service for you. And obviously getting connected with us in the summer will be best for you so you can get ready to go in the fall. We offer testing accommodations, adaptive and assistive technologies, note-taking assistants, readers, scribes, ASL interpretation. There's a transportation service. Let's say, for example, if you are permanently impaired or if you have a temporary impairment, let's say you break your leg in a skiing accident, you can't get around campus to your classes, we can offer a temporary mobility assistance for you as well. And we also offer other kinds of awareness events and ally programs. If you are learning, for example, how to teach students with disabilities, that's a center that you'll want to go to as well. Dr. Chang already mentioned our next slide, Student Health Center. But again, a little shout out for that. This is where you would see your doctors if you have the UCI insurance, or where you could go even if you don't have UCI health insurance. Visits are billed to your insurance like they would be at any other center. There is an on-site lab, radiology, pharmacist, dermatology, women's health, sports medicine, GI physicians. There's a psychiatrist there, nurse clinic for immunizations and travel consultations. There are telehealth options as well, something that we all got used to during the pandemic. You can access a provider from the comfort of your own home. At the counseling center as well, we will always, for the foreseeable future, have telehealth options. On this slide also is a little shout out to the care office. This is our office, again, free. They offer confidential consultation, counseling, advocacy for people who are survivors of sexual assault, intimate partner violence, sexual harassment, relationship abuse, and stalking. There are all kinds of healing programs. There's programs for campus-wide awareness on bystander intervention, on sexual assault and stalking, peer programs as well. Our student peers do a phenomenal job year-round of offering all kinds of extraordinary programming. Next slide. Talk a little bit about campus recreation. Hopefully you've been to campus before and you've seen this big, beautiful building where our recreational facilities are. We've got an indoor track, one of the only few that you will see. This is, again, access to the gym has already been paid for by your student fees. For other classes that there are nominal fees if you wanted to take yoga classes, for example. But there's a gym and courts and weight room and a rock wall and a demo kitchen, fitness training, massage therapy, club sports and intramurals. A lot of our students want to stay fit and active and take advantage of our indoor and outdoor recreation classes. Sports fields and courts, we've got a pool, ropes course, sailing, lots of things, hiking, things like that. Next, so no, this is, sorry, back one slide. I'm so sorry. I was a little ahead of myself here. On this slide too is Center for Student Wellness and Health Promotion, free. Again, there are all kinds of services there and consultations. We have a nutritionist who also works for student health, but this is the free access to the nutritionist, dietitian rather, excuse me. Offers consultations and support for all kinds of health concerns, sleep, alcohol and other drugs, sexual and relationship health, mental and emotional well-being, evidence-informed classes, workshops, programming. There's a condom co-op, other peer programs as well. Next slide. At last, childcare. I want to talk a little bit about childcare. So perhaps you are bringing a little one with you to campus, or a bigger one, elementary school. We offer childcare as well. Tuition rates vary by center. We have 5 centers for kids ranging in age from 3 months to 12 years old. We have full day programs, half day programs. And at certain centers, students are eligible to apply for a subsidized grant. So if you're an incoming graduate student and you are interested in looking into the grant, please let childcare know. Okay, and this slide as well talks about social work services. There are campus-wide social workers, again, free, work with the entire community. It's a non-clinical setting in contrast to the clinical social workers at the counseling center and at student health. They can help you with things like basic needs. So we do have a food pantry, for example, or housing concerns, other kinds of financial difficulties that you may be having may be perfect for a social worker. This is confidential. And if you have a series of psychosocial stressors during the years that you are pursuing your degree, this may be a free service for you as well. There are also lots of online resources, and do take a look at the resources as well, because you will have students in your classes who may be telling you my paper is late because, and you might want to refer them to the social worker as you are also taking advantage of their services. We've got multiple social workers. Next slide. Just wanted to share briefly a word about system-wide wellness efforts. Do know that we take health and wellness and well-being very seriously at UCI. We have signed on to become a health promoting campus. So we believe that wellness and healthcare isn't just about medical care, but also about the structure of the institution, our policies, whether it's a parking policy or a late paper policy or accessibility where you can get clean drinking water. We want to embed health and well-being into the fabric of the campus, not just into our healthcare settings. We do share data with other UCs, and we convene to talk about best practices across all 10 campuses. And we've also really have some exciting news. We've received $1.7 million, again, to think about student mental health and to embed equity into all of our student mental health offerings. There may be another slide. So yeah, and I want to take time here to also think about online mental health resources. You may not need them now, but it's good to know what's offered. There are online, all different kinds of brochures and access to programs. We have something called TAL, Therapy Assisted Online. It talks about anxiety, depression, kind of psychoeducation. You may not need a counselor, but some of these online resources are fantastic. And last slide, please. The last thing is to follow us on social media, Facebook and YouTube, Instagram and Twitter. There are lots of information that we have about, May, for example, is Mental Health Awareness Month. There are lots of activities happening in May. There are little tidbits and tips. So we want you to follow us on social media as well. I think that's the last slide. Please, we want you to take advantage of our services. Welcome again, and congratulations to you all. Thanks for the PowerPoint help.
Okay, I think Dean Hayes actually might have had to step out because there's a fire alarm on campus. So imagine that. So I am Derek Fazenden. I am the Director of Communications over here at the Graduate Division. And I will step in shortly here, and let's go to Ruth Quinnan.
Okay, I'm now unmuted, so that's good. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, it's afternoon here. It may be a very different time where you are, but we're delighted that you're here, and congratulations to everyone. I'm Ruth Quinnan. I'm the Assistant Dean for Academic and Student Affairs. So I oversee a variety of different areas. We have an academic counseling office within our office, and that person meets with students. Actually, those two people, we just hired an assistant counselor as well. And they meet with students to discuss anything students might feel like they want to talk to somebody about. whether it's an academic issue or, an issue that students are having communicating with their advisor, or if they're having, work-life balance issues, or, any kind of counseling, any kind of something that students may want to talk about. Those people are available, and it's a free service. Students can see them as often as they wish and as many times as they wish. I also oversee various areas of student retention, so a variety of programs to see that students are happy and thriving, and to support students. Also, I oversee the Academic Initiatives Office, which has to do with new academic programs or changes to academic programs. I also have a lot of meetings with students, on a variety of issues. Anytime a student has a problem or an issue, I would encourage them to contact me. If I can't help personally, I almost always know who can and can refer you, but we do our best to answer students' questions ourselves. We really don't like to, shift you around to a whole lot of different places. I'd rather find the information out myself and respond to you. So, basically, my job is to run and oversee and help out in a variety of student support activities and initiatives and programs, and also to support students individually anytime they need it. I'm happy to talk to people. So I think I will hand it off now to who's next, Derek?
Let's go with, thank you so much for that introduction, Ruth. And we will go with Connie Malone with housing, a very important topic to all of you, I know. And I believe Dean Hayes is back. So I see you're on there.
Hello, everyone. I'm
sorry.
glad Gillian made it back. Yeah, housing is a big topic, particularly for our grad students who are coming from far away. Just a few points in terms of an overview, that more than half of UCI graduate students do live on campus. We house single students, couples, and families. If you're a PhD student, a law student, or an MFA student, or in one of the combined MD PhD programs, you are guaranteed housing for your normative time to degree if you take occupancy in the fall of your first year, so by the time classes start. In order to take advantage of that guarantee, you need to apply for housing by May 1st. So it's very important to pay attention to that deadline and other deadlines that come up in the offering process. Unfortunately, we can't guarantee specific communities, apartment types, or other preferences, but we do our best to match students to their preferred communities and apartment types. This is a good year to be trying to live on campus because we're adding 425 new units to our inventory, and those will be in Verano Place, and they include studios, 2 bedrooms, and 4-bedroom units. UCI housing is unfurnished, but we do partner with a third party, American Campus Communities, which are also on campus, and those units are furnished. So if you're coming from far away and you want the simplicity of moving into a furnished unit, you can look at the American Campus Communities. And in the chat, I'll put both the UCI housing website and the page that'll take you to the ACC community websites. And I think that's, in terms of when people get offered, so apply by May 1st. The guaranteed students will all get an offer by the end of July, probably more towards the beginning or middle of July. And then once we finish with guaranteed students, we will go to our wait lists and offer to as many students as we can on our wait lists. The applications are now open. And I will also put in the chat the link to the Housing Gateway that will take you to those applications. You must SIR before you can access the housing application. And it takes 24 to 48 hours for that SIR data to get over to our systems. So best not to wait till the very last minute to SIR so that you can be sure to get your housing application in by the May 1st deadline. I think that's a good intro, hopefully.
That's fantastic, Connie. Thank you so much. And apologies to everyone for that slight chaos. The fire alarm went off in my building, so I had to walk over to another building. I'm now sitting outside. Luckily, one of the benefits of coming to school here is that it is absolutely gorgeous year round, and you can sit outside and have meetings when the fire alarms go off. We will do our last couple of intros in a moment. I just want to reiterate what Connie just said, which is, if you think you're coming here, please go ahead and SIR yes and apply for housing. Do that quickly. And if you're one of the guaranteed students, which is mostly our PhD students and a few other categories, it's still good to go ahead and apply. And if you're a master's student who doesn't have a guarantee, you should really apply early. So just make sure that that's super clear. And I know we've got housing questions, so we'll get to those in a moment. But first, let's go over to Kayleigh Anderson-Natale. Dr. Anderson-Natale runs our postdoctoral and graduate student scholar resource center, as well as a whole variety of other things on our campus. And we'll be able to tell you some more great information.
Hi, thank you. And again, welcome everyone. Congratulations again on getting in at UCI. We hope to see you in the fall. As Dr. Hayes mentioned, I am the Director of Postdoc and Professional Development here at UCI Graduate Division, and I work out of our Graduate and Postdoctoral Scholar Resource Center, which we refer to as the GPSRC. So if you see that written or you hear that, that's what we're referring to. My focus is on professional development and then fellowship support. If you are an incoming student who is in a research program, I'd highly encourage you to start thinking about external funding. There's the NSF, there's the Ford Foundation, places like that. Getting a head start on those applications is always very useful. If you have any questions or you want resources about fellowship writing or external funding writing, I am a resource for you. You can always reach out to me. You can make an appointment to do an individual consultation. Over the summer, I also hold programs specific to NSF, specific to Ford, specific to Fulbright, but I also have a quarterly program that I run that's just focused on fellowship writing and resources. And during that session, I go over kind of some strategies as well as some big funding agencies that we see a lot of our students getting funding from. So that's always a good, useful thing to attend. Additionally, I do professional development. So you all are kind of coming in your first year. I see a little bit more advanced students talking to me about professional development, but it is never too late or too early to get on professional development. So I run a few programs. Preparing for a faculty career is one that's very popular. We also have a management beyond the classroom if you are trying to gain some management skills. Again, reach out to me if you'd like to do any kind of individual consultation. I work very closely with our Division of Career Pathways that also can provide you with some individual consultation on a CV or cover letter, things like that. In addition, I work with the rest of the GPSRC staff. And so we run programs for both postdocs and grad students that run from funding, the NSF stuff that I already mentioned, all the way up to wellness. We have, during spring, we have Spring Up, which is focused on wellness activities to help students kind of get through the spring quarter. We have Winter Recharge in the winter. The winter term is usually really hard because, you're coming back from a wonderful break. And when it's over, that you just have a week break before spring. So both those quarters can be pretty tough for a lot of students. So we try to provide some extra support. The other thing I would say is that this is a resource center. So if you have questions, if you have concerns, you can always come up to our space. Currently, we are open 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Monday through Thursday. But again, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me or any of my staff, and we will get you connected to the right person. As Ruth mentioned, we try really hard to not give you the runaround. So same thing applies up here. If you have a question, we will try to figure it out. If we aren't the correct people to help you, we'll try to direct you to the right person. And I think that's all for now. Thank you, Gillian.
Thank you so much, Kayleigh. And last but not least, we always want to make sure that you get a chance to hear from our graduate student leadership, at least our graduate student leadership for a couple more months. So our Associated Graduate Students President is Connor Strobel, and he's here. And AGS is just an incredibly wonderful resource for all of you. And I encourage you to get involved when you come here. So over to you, Connor.
Well, thank you so much. So AGS stands for the Associated Graduate Students, the graduate student government for the campus. And we do a variety of things. We'll see you leading up to when you join us in the fall. We do a variety of sort of community development and sort of social programming. So you'll see us, the picture behind me, if you haven't visited, is the Student Center. So we'll close that off and do sort of big social events when it's safe to do so. We'll help take students to trips to the beach or trips hiking, trips to be able to kind of experience the surrounding community. We put on professional development and research symposiums, variety working with Kayleigh's team and a variety of other offices on campus, variety of professional development opportunities. We also run a variety of sort of grant support programs, like every quarter. If you're trying to go to our research or professional networking conference, we have a stipend program to help make that a little bit easier for y'all. We do a variety of cool advocacy work too, in addition to kind of always having a line of communication with folks like Dean Hayes and some of the other administrators you see here today. We train sort of students of a variety of different disciplines, backgrounds, and experience to lobby, whether that's at City Hall, taking folks up to Sacramento, or even the trips out to DC to talk about policies affecting graduate students, or to help leverage the expertise that you all will be sort of producing while you're here. So it's a really wonderful opportunity to sort of build a sense of community within your school, within the campus, and to make an impact both here and all over the country. So it's a lot of fun. I encourage you to give us a look. Check us out on our website, which is ags.uci.edu. We'll put that in there. We're also pretty active on social media too. And make sure to check us out for orientation week, because we'll have events throughout the week to rope you in.
Thank you so much, Connor. And I'll just add to that the AGS students really are your elected leadership. And so they have regular meetings with all kinds of people on campus. So when you arrive, even if you don't yourself get involved in AGS, I really encourage you to make sure you know who the AGS reps are for your area and talk with them regularly. They can often problem solve all kinds of things for you, or just help that your voice is heard. So with that, we'll switch us over to, I think we've got everyone introduced. I know I was gone for a moment, so hopefully that's good. And we'll switch us over to our sort of grid view so you can see all of our smiling, welcoming faces as we try to get through some of the many wonderful questions that you all have been asking in the chat. So the first one I'm going to answer is, some of you may be international students, and we have a great question in here about, is the information you're getting today the same as at last week's international student panel? A lot of the information is the same, but people did ask a good number of very detailed international questions. And we also had representatives from the International Center, as well as Amy Zhang, who is from Graduate Division, who focuses entirely on international students. So I encourage you all to go to that recording of that panel. If you are an international student, there may be some additional information that you'd like to get there. And Derek has placed that into the chat. It's also available on the Grad Division website under prospective student town halls, probably somewhere around where you registered to come to this town hall. So we'll start with that. Connie, no surprise here. We have a lot of housing questions. So let me start with a couple around floor plans. So there seem to be some questions about whether you could ever wind up with a roommate in the shared bedroom, or whether you really are always separate bedrooms. What's the max number of bedrooms people can get? All of those sort of, where can we get more information about the floor plans and so on? Anything you want to tell us about floor plans?
Well, if you go onto the housing website and click on the communities drop down, go to the communities page, each community will show the floor plans that are available. You can also find floor plans linked to the rates page, which is even better because you find out what the rental rates will be for each floor plan. But when you go to that rates page at the very top, be sure to click on 22-23 rates, because we don't post them on the main page until the end of this school year. But in terms of floor plans, the most common floor plan is a 2-bedroom apartment. There are no shared bedrooms. Everybody has their own bedroom. But I would say a majority of students share an apartment with one other student. Now, just recently, in this most recent phase that we're adding, there are a number of 4-bedroom apartments. So 4 single bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and then a common kitchen and living area. We also do have in that new development, like more studios. Can't remember the exact number, it might be 40 or something. Some of those we have to hold for disability services accommodations, but if you're a single student, my best advice would be don't count on getting your own apartment. If that is the most important factor for you, I will say that the American campus communities have more efficiency in 1-bedroom units than UCI housing has. So that's something to consider when you're making your housing preferences. But everybody has their own bedroom. And yeah, we try to match you up with your preferences as best we can, but understand that we don't have everybody clearing out every year. On average, students stay with us for 4 to 5 years. So we can only assign new students to the spaces that become open at the end of the school year.
Thank you so much for that, Connie. And while we've got you off mute, if you could speak to the family application process. We've got a couple of questions in about if my partner is also a student, does only one of us apply? Should both of us apply? And also, I'm trying to remember because I thought that possibly the new Verano 8 development is not families. So I just want to check, are families eligible for those 4-bedroom apartments?
I think we're allowing couples, but not, I don't think we're putting people with children in those apartments.
So the biggest family
buildings.
Apartment. The biggest family apartment then is a 3-bedroom. Is that right?
Yes, the biggest family apartment is a 3-bedroom. If you have a special situation, you can always email Graduate and Family Housing to lay out your circumstances, and we try to work with you as best we can. But yeah, if you and your partner are both students, it couldn't hurt for you to both apply. And then see what kind of offer you get. But if you know you're going to be living together and you're happy with just one of you getting an offer, it's not essential. But if you're both guaranteed students, I would recommend you both apply. Just so you're on record as having entered housing your first year, so you both will retain the guarantee throughout your normative time to degree, whether or not you remain together all that time. Not to put any negative mojo out there.
That is a great point, Connie. Thank you for that. I had not thought of that. I was just going to say, oh, just one with the guarantee could apply. But yes, you're right. Things do happen. Grad school can be stressful. So thank you for that reminder.
Sure.
Fantastic. Okay, so we've got some great questions about funding. Funding at the graduate student level is a little tricky, so I'm going to call on Ruth to answer some more details, and then maybe Kayleigh can give us a little bit more as well with particular fellowships. But there's multiple kinds of funding, some of which is run through financial aid. That's your standard loans and kind of what you think of at the undergraduate level. There's also, for our PhD and MFA students, you all have a funding guarantee. And if you're not sure what that is, please reach out to your PhD program director or your MFA program director, and they will help you with that. And then for our other students, our master's students and JDs and other folks that don't have the funding guarantees, there are a wide variety of opportunities, including employment, things like being a TA, being a graduate student researcher on someone's grant, as well as fellowship opportunities. So let me hand it over to Ruth to talk about some of those logistics and how all of that works. And then possibly Kayleigh and maybe even Connor want to comment on some of the opportunities that are out there.
So I'll speak to PhD students and MFA students first, because you have a funding guarantee, and that's normally in the form of, a teaching assistantship, a researcher assistant appointment, a fellowship, or it can be some combination of all of those things, depending on what year and what you've been offered and what type of support your particular program uses mostly. Some of the STEM fields, for example, the faculty have a good number of grants, and students are usually employed as student researchers on those grants. For example, the humanities and social sciences, students are normally supported as teaching assistants. And fee remission is provided for both types of appointments. Fee remission covers all fees and tuition for students that are graduate student researchers. For students that are teaching assistants, it covers student fees except for the local student fees, which I think are like $261 and some cents. And some programs will cover that for students as well. Students have to be in good academic standing to qualify for any of those appointments. Fellowships are often offered. Some programs support all of their students with fellowships in their first year. Some do it, in subsequent years. Some programs also offer summer support. So there are all different kinds of support. It is different from financial aid, which is federal, and that's offered through the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships. And I do want to point out that in the event that you're getting any kind of federal financial aid loans, if you do, if you also are provided with fellowship support, which could be fees, tuition, stipend, or some combination of any of those things, particularly with a stipend, it can affect your eligibility for financial aid loans. So if you find yourself in a position where you're getting both financial aid and fellowships, I highly encourage you to talk to your department as well as the Office of Financial Aid, because you don't want to be in a position where all of a sudden you get all this nice money and then you turn around and get billed for some of your student loans. That's never a good situation. Students, have to, as I said, maintain satisfactory academic progress to qualify for any kind of financial support, which, includes doing well in your courses. We have usually a 3.0 or 3.1 GPA requirement for students to qualify for financial support, make satisfactory progress, all of those normal kinds of things that you would run into. But those are pretty much the funding options for master's students. Some programs will offer fellowships to master's students. Some programs will offer research assistantships or teaching assistantships for master's students, but by and large, PhD students are prioritized for those sorts of supports. That's not to say master's students can't get them, but to a lesser degree, I would say, than PhD students and MFA students who do have an actual guarantee. Usually it's for 5 years or normative time to degree for the program. So it differs from program to program a little bit. So if you're curious, I would absolutely talk to the program that admitted you and ask them what their normal support package is.
Fantastic. Kayleigh, do you want to add a little? I know you already talked about our services, but perhaps some of the most frequent ways in which additional funding comes in?
Sure. So first of all, I just want to draw attention to the chat. I did add a link there to our Office of Research, and there's a bunch of links there for funding databases, including Pivot, which is a really big funding database. You can apply for fellowships, grants, lots of things through there. And if you're kind of like looking into external funding, I would start there. Pivot is great, but it is a huge database. So I usually tell students, like, learn to love it, because you will get better at navigating it the more you use it. One thing I did want to add to what Ruth said is so the tuition, remission, et cetera, kicks in at a 25% appointment, I believe. Good, she's nodding. Most of our PhD students and people who have full funding are going to have a 50%-ish or close to appointment, which is going to be about 20 hours a week. If you have less than a 25% appointment for some reason, that does not come with tuition, remission, and those kinds of benefits. So most of the time, that's probably not going to come up for a lot of you, but I did just want to note that, as it can be kind of confusing. And during the academic year, students are usually limited to a 50% appointment. During the summer, under certain conditions, you can get up to 100% appointment. But I also wanted to just encourage you to think that through a lot. If you are a student that's like, I really need money this summer, you do need to weigh it against your advancement. And as someone who did work full-time once during a summer as a graduate student, I can say I didn't get very far in my research. So that's something always to consider. Additionally, some common funding organizations, so the National Science Foundation, the National Institute of Health, the Ford Foundation, and then Fulbright if you are going to be applying to do some work abroad. The other thing I would say is make sure to watch your email and look for internal fellowship opportunities. We do have many. One thing that I also like to remind students is, like, once you start getting funding, you're going to get more funding because you're building a really good CV. So if you find that you're not competitive right now, keep applying, maybe apply for some of those like smaller awards that are like $500, $1,000. It can help you to build out your CV. And what you want to be telling funders is that you're worth funding. And if you have a bunch of funding on your record, they're going to look at that and say, wow, this person is really worth funding. Look at all these other people who have funded them. So I just kind of wanted to give you that pointer. And again, if you want any kind of individual consultation, that's something we can help you with as well. I'll pass it off to Connor, I believe, if you have any further comments.
Yeah, no. So Kayleigh really knocked it out of the park. Her and her team in it, like really like leveraged them for whether that's reviewing the applications and the drafts you have. They're a really wonderful resource. You'll also, depending on the programs that you're in, whether it's at the program level, department level, or school level, there are also a variety of workshops that tailor to some of the more common external funding opportunities in your discipline. So really keep an eye out to those. Feel free to reach out to your graduate program coordinator or director for your program or in your department, and they can let you know a little bit more that's going on at the school level. And then we love to sort of broadcast sort of student success. So if you ever see on whether it's the grad division Facebook or website or from your school or things like that, and you see a fellow student won that the year before, a couple years before, it's really common for anytime you hear someone who put an application together, for someone else to reach out and say, hey, can I look at your draft, see how you did it? That way we don't have to rewrite the wheel, and you can kind of learn by sort of mimicking success and help actualizing it that way. So also feel free to reach out to your peer students who are, doing really well. We have some of among many of these other awards, I think we are in the top 5, I might be mistaken, for a number of Fulbright awardees nationally. So we have a really great track record of doing that. And a lot of that is from peer-to-peer support as well too. So that way you can kind of understand from the student perspective too, how to work through that process.
Thank you so much, everyone. That's really fantastic. I know we've got a ton of questions in the Zoom Q&A, but I also want to respect the questions that were sent ahead of time. So I'm going to switch gears for a little and ask a couple of those questions. So Dr. Chang and Dr. Hayashida, you probably are the best people to walk us through some of this. We have a lot of questions about student health insurance, both when it starts and also what it might cover in terms of both, our physical health and our mental health if we need to seek services away from campus. So I don't know which one of you wants to start with that fun discussion.
I can go ahead and start on the coverage side. And so Ruth was also able to support us through the answer. So I believe it's about 1 to 2 weeks before the actual start of classes. And she posted in the chat there the answers that date. And once again, it covers all of the primary care health plan coverage. There are medications that are covered, dental is covered, vision is covered, referrals are covered within the plan kind of criteria. And it's a wonderful plan actually when you think about it, because our patient population is relatively younger, so 18 to 30-year-old, low risk. And it's with the Anthem platform, which has got a lot of outreach to different specialty networks and specialty groups and services. And so it actually is a very organized group, and it covers quite a bit of services. We have a student health insurance advisory committee that meets on a regular basis, which is composed of our staff, some of our staff members from student health, through student affairs, through Ruth is on our team there as well as our undergraduate and graduate students. And I've been truly impressed by the students through the UC plans to advocate for their needs. So a lot of the coverage for transgender services and support, a lot of the coverage for medications, through even reimbursements on some testing, that our student groups really advocate to fight for what they believe is deserved. I've been in healthcare for 2 decades. I've never seen a group as active as our group here, which is phenomenal, which is like helpful for me. So if any of you have interest, it's something to look into. I'll go ahead and if there's anything else, maybe for mental health, Marcelle, or anything else in that adds to clean up on.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dr. Chang covered all of it. I mean, to his last point, so much so that, this year, for most people, outpatient mental health services had no copay, right? So that's so our students are so interested in making sure that mental health was covered, particularly during this pandemic. that if you were to go off campus, which many people do go off campus because we're in Orange County and there are lots of therapists in Orange County, often many within the same building. They wanted to make sure that that they had lowered the barriers to getting mental health care. There was a question earlier about, if I go to the counseling center, am I going to have to pay? That is free. Your student fees have already covered things like the counseling center. If you go to student health, however, and see a psychiatrist, that's when you're going to be using your insurance.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so some additional questions for Connie. We know that housing always gets the most questions at these town halls, so thank you. I will categorize these as a series of them around who can live with me. So anyone from a sibling who's an undergraduate to a partner who is there in a long-term relationship with, but they are not actually married. Any of those questions. Who can live with our students in housing?
Okay. Typically, if you're in a partner relationship or married, you will submit an affidavit of your partnership where you go to someone who can notarize this form that is filled out, and those forms are on the housing website. If you have children, you will need to provide, I think when you move in, like birth certificates or documentation of the children who are living with you. When you fill out your housing application, you will select your status, single with a partner, partner and children, or single with children. Those are the typical groups that live together. Only by exceptional approval are people allowed to bring other family members with them. Whether it's a parent for childcare or there's some kind of unique situation in terms of a sibling. But typically it's just partners and children, or whatever combination of those two things that live together. And the application process will walk you through what documentation is required.
Thank you, Connie. And if they do want to apply for one of those exceptions, is that part of the application process, or do they send an email to you?
I think they wouldn't send it to me, but they'd send it to Graduate Family Housing. If they can't find the email on the housing website, you can send any email inquiry to housing@uci.edu, and we will route your request to the correct person who can help you.
Fantastic. Thank you. And one more housing question while we have you off mute, which is, it looks like there may be some confusion as to how to apply for Verano 8 and what the rates will be, since that's our brand new development that is opening up. I don't know if you can speak to that at all.
Sure. Well, you don't apply to that community separately. You just fill out a housing application. And within the application, there will be floor plans listed for each community. So I can tell you right now, the Verano 8, the towers, as we're calling them, floor plans are O, P, and Q. So they're at the bottom. So just look for those floor plans, and it's a studio, 2-bedroom, 4-bedroom. But they are included in the housing application. But once again, we can't guarantee that that's what you will get, although it's a completely vacant set of buildings. So a lot of people will get Verano Towers, at least up until they're filled. So your chances of getting in there are not too bad. And was there another question that you asked? Oh, the one other thing I did want to mention, because this is pretty common in grad housing. If you have any kind of accommodation needs for any kind of housing accommodation, including for an emotional support animal, you need to register with Disability Services and submit a request for that kind of accommodation. And then we meet and review those requests for the ESAs. Disability Services will connect with you to go over your needs, and then the ESA requests are managed by a committee weekly.
Great. And I lied to you. I said it was your last question, but then a couple more came in that it seems like would be really helpful. I've seen a few questions go by about the pet policy. I know people have been responding to those in the chat, but maybe that's one that's coming up enough. It would be good to go ahead and speak it.
Sure. It depends on where you live. Some units are pet-free. Others allow for cats or other small animals, typically caged as pets, but you do have to register your pet, and I think there is a pet deposit. But dogs are not allowed as pets. The only dogs that are allowed are either service animals or emotional support animals.
Thank you. And I think this will really be the last housing one for a while, and we'll switch gears. But do they submit the documentation for a spouse and child before they get their offer back, or how does that process work?
Well, I think they just apply and then they submit the affidavit and the documentation for the children, I think, later in the process. So you don't have to submit that before you apply. Just get your application in, tell us what kind of housing you want, and then you can access the forms online, and particularly the form for partners that you need to get notarized. You can get that ready, and then when you get your offer, you can send that in to the housing community where you're going to live.
Fantastic. Thank you. We've got a couple of disability services questions that I'm hoping Dr. Hayashida can answer for us. What the process is, as well as how quickly they should be getting in touch with disability services, particularly if they want to have particular housing or if they need services over the summer and so on.
Right. So DSC, I don't know if someone could put the DSC website in the chat. I can certainly do that after talking. But you would connect with DSC directly and they will hook you up with an appointment. Obviously, right now, DSC is working with currently enrolled students, right? Our quarter just kicked off. And so the priority right now is for people who are currently enrolled today, right now. It's a 10-week quarter. We got to move quickly. But in the summer, right, as you begin, if you're starting in the summer, right before the summer starts, it would be a reasonable time to expect to interact with the counselor at DSC to make some arrangements for whatever courses you might be taking in the summer or whatever work you're doing in the summer. So that's really the process. You're going to meet with the counselor. You want to maybe bring whatever paperwork you've had. If you have a documented disability, you want to maybe bring whatever tests or documents to that appointment. If it's for ADHD, you don't just get diagnosed overnight. So whatever you have, you want to bring with you. But that's the process. Again, depending on what the accommodation is, sometimes you can get a meeting in the first, week or so, right? And then get your accommodations going. And I know the quarter moves very quickly. And so if you really haven't gotten them in early in the quarter, it's going to be hard to get everything situated for yourself with enough time. So do give yourself plenty of time. The summer would be a perfect time to start connecting with DSC for a fall start.
Thank you so much. And I'll just throw out there that sometimes we have students, you've been accepted to graduate school. You are obviously an excellent student and you are coping very well. So we do have students who sometimes are eligible for disability services, but they've been so successful in their coping mechanisms throughout their lives that they don't feel it's necessary to register. I just want to encourage you to register. If you think that you have any need whatsoever, please do go ahead and reach out. You don't want to be going to register once you are in a position where you might be in crisis. It's way better if we go ahead and get you support early. So Connor, let me switch over to you. We've got some great questions, both that came in ahead of time and in the chat about just like life as a graduate student here and who they can reach out to find out more about their individual programs or about what they can expect, on the ground in their places.
Yeah, so appreciate it. So let me first kind of start off with, to oversimplify UCI in 2 sentences. So what makes UCI special in being, just over 50 years old, being in Southern California, is that it has a sort of vitality to the community that you don't really see anywhere else. The people are, match the weather, sunny, collaborative, energetic, enthusiastic, sometimes too happy, like in sort of too perky when like the sun's out, people were talking about, oh, they went surfing in the morning and they're going to lab in the afternoon. And so it's a really hospitable place to sort of live as a student, but also as a person. And in terms of sort of how to sort of learn sort of what it's like within your program or to sort of, survive and thrive in Southern California and at UCI, you can go about that a few different ways. If you, thanks Derek for putting our link a little bit earlier. If you go to there, we have sort of a kind of a wiki on sort of kind of living around campus, great places for food or grocery shopping, just kind of everything you wish you knew. There are also plenty of opportunities to chat with folks within your program. So if you have a few questions about sort of striking that balance and you want to begin those conversations, you can either reach out to your graduate program coordinator, either for your specific degree program or for the department, and they can kind of give you a little bit more of the in and outs for sort of the progression of how your time should go as a student. You can also reach out to folks who are currently enrolled in the program. The departments have directories of current students, and they'd be I get them all the time, just within my own program in sociology. Students do. You reach out, they'll happy to talk to you over Zoom or email, just telling you sort of what their experiences have been, just being able to sort of hear from students. Different programs set up a little bit differently, but there are a variety of sort of peer mentorship opportunities. There's some run undergraduate division, particularly for our underrepresented, under-resourced, and otherwise marginalized communities. Things like Decade and a few others that sort of begin in the summer and that run throughout the year to sort of build sort of community and sort of achieving work-life balance and support. Programs also do that as well. You might be assigned with someone who might be a year or two ahead of you, kind of just so you get your bearings between balancing, your classes and life, or if you have research and TA obligations, you can kind of strike those out too. So a variety of opportunities to kind of do that formally, but really, it's a wonderfully informal place between the opportunity to sort of just have a conversation with the student, just to reach out to somebody. That is sort of our way of doing things. So if you just see someone, you see someone with a smile on their profile picture on the department website, hit them up. They'll be happy to talk to you.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to go back to some of our submitted questions that came in before the webinar. We had a few different questions around issues of, can I switch advisors? Do I have to do lab rotations? Can I switch programs? Can I switch concentrations? All of those kinds of, I didn't wind up wanting to do exactly what I thought I was going to do when I started. So I'm going to give my answer to this, but then I encourage our panelists to jump in, which is to say, you only have one life. So if you get to grad school and you aren't in quite the right place, I really encourage you to make the changes that you need to make. And that might be, switching advisors, that might be switching concentrations, that might be applying to a whole new program, either here at UCI or somewhere else. So we will do our best to support you if you come and find that is a challenge. In programs where there are lab rotations, they typically are mandatory. Sorry, I'm outside and it's allergies. I might sneeze. Okay. If they have a lab rotation built into the program, it probably is a mandatory one, but you can reach out to your program director and see if you really need to go through all of those or if you've already matched with your advisor. But part of the reason that programs that have lab rotations have them is because we know that often the advisor isn't quite right. The person you thought that you were going to work with doesn't turn out to be the person. So really strongly encourage you, if you have thoughts about these things already, reach out to faculty in the program you're entering, reach out to your program director and start talking about what you think you might want to do. Because again, from my perspective, you only have one life, but let's see what some of our other panelists think about some of those changes.
I'm just going to add that if you are in a program and you're like, this isn't right, I need to make a change, like you need to change advisors, or as Dr. Hayes mentioned, even a different program. I mostly want to assure you that that's not nearly as uncommon as you might think of. I had a big advisor switch when I was in grad school, and I was amazed at when I started talking to people about that, how many people that came up with. And I would also say, echo what Dr. Hayes is saying. You might be really interested in something, but part of grad school is exploring. So it's not a failure. It's not a bad thing. If you change focus, if you change advisor, you might find something really boring in undergrad, but once you get to grad school and you really see what research on it looks like, you might find that you're more interested in that. And I would just say, I see happier grad students that are able to kind of figure that out than the students who feel like, I'm trapped. There's the sunken cost fallacy. Maybe you're a couple of years in and you're like, I do need a change. The change is worthwhile. Even if you've already put in some legwork ahead of time, you want to graduate with the degree and the concentration that's going to make you feel fulfilled.
Anyone else want to jump in on that? No? All right, let's go. Oh, Connor, go ahead.
Sorry, my screen froze. I was trying to hit the unmute button. Kayleigh's absolutely right. And, maybe from hearing from a student, you can internalize more. I've gone through change between 3 different advisors. I love and respect all of them very much. Even for the folks who aren't currently my advisor anymore, we get coffee, we chat all the time. Your research changes, right? Sometimes it can be sort of, the theories you use, the topics you cover, your approach to it. Sometimes it can be different grants and research opportunities that are available. It is perfectly common for that to happen. And you build a community of people that you learn from. You might have an advisor who you kind of go to for one aspect of your research, another for a different aspect, another because you think like they've really mastered, the work-life balance, or if you really want to become a teacher, you want to teach just like them. And so you have an advisor, but you really sort of are building a community. And because of that, sort of who is formally your advisor can be a very fluid thing. And that's expected by the faculty and of the students too.
All right, let's go back to housing because we haven't talked about housing enough. So let's have some more questions. Apologies. I know housing is so stressful. Southern California is expensive and we get it. So we're happy to answer these. One big question, how about summer housing? So if people are coming for programs that start in the summer, or if they are choosing to enroll with Competitive Edge or any of these other kinds of things, I think that's probably a Connie and Ruth question, but let's start with Connie.
Great question. We do place, if you're in a formal early start or summer start program, you can tell us in your application when you want to start, when you want to move in. That ranges from, early July to early September. But also if you're enrolled in an early start program with your academic school, they will let us know when you're arriving for that program, and we will place those people first. So in the past, there have been some programs that actually start in late June. So we jump on those applications first and get those people placed. And then most of our offers will start sometime from mid-July to mid-August. Now, the way our housing works, we offer new leases when the unit becomes available. We can't hold everything until mid-September for people to arrive. So if you get an offer for a unit that's your top preference unit, but the start date is a little earlier than you might have liked, you should really think about whether it's worth it to just take that earlier offer, because if you come back to us and say, oh, I want this unit, but in September, we may not be able to offer you that. So most of the offers are with start dates sometime in mid-July to mid-August.
Thank you for that, Connie. And then we've got a couple more questions. I know we've already talked about the affidavit of adult partnership, but there's some cases where the partners are currently living separately and they're trying to move here to actually be able to be together. Do you have any advice on how best to deal with that affidavit? And I guess the more broad question, because I see a lot of other really detailed questions in here about very specific things, is what should they do with any of these detailed questions? Or if a week from now they realize, oops,
Sure.
I wish I would have asked this on the town hall.
Sure. You can, as I said earlier, you can send any housing question to housing@uci.edu, and we will forward it to the grad community or the grad staff member who can best answer it. And then from then on, if you're going back and forth, you'll have that person's email and you can converse with them directly. I would say if you have a partner who you know is not going to be here with you when you come, but may come later, you could come as a single student, live with another student, but then apply for a transfer when you know when your partner will be here. I'm not sure whether, say your partner's going to come in November, but you know they're coming and you want to be living together. You could apply for that family unit, fill out the paperwork, but you'll be responsible for paying for the whole unit, and presumably they will be here, when they get here. But a lot of those detailed questions that are very specific to situations, we typically leave to the grad communities to work out with students, because there's so many different situations that could come up.
Absolutely. Thank you. And so again, I'll just say, reach out to the grad housing emails with any housing questions, reach out to gradapplicant@uci.edu with any admissions questions, or how do I get my transcript there, or how do I any of those things. We are all very happy to help you. Often the best thing to do is going to be just to email with your super detailed question there. I want to answer one more question that I see. Ruth is already typing an answer to the question in the chat, but I think it's worthwhile to talk about this one broadly. And I may even call on one of our staff members who are lurking in the background and don't have their camera on. But there's a question about programs to support people of color here at UCI. And I just want to highlight, first of all, that this is absolutely something that we are incredibly dedicated to. We take great pride in being both a Hispanic serving institution and an AAPI serving institution. We have the new Black Thriving Initiative. These are issues that are of the utmost importance to us, and you'll see it across the campus in things like Decade and like our fellowship programs and so on. So let me start with a reaffirmation of our commitment, but also invite our panelists here to talk about, I don't think we have time for you to talk about all of the wonderful programs that we do to support diversity and equity and inclusion on our campus, but maybe I'll invite you to, each of you could share one that you think is particularly worth highlighting, or maybe I'll even let you get away with two, but not a giant listing. And I'm going to start with Connor, because I think the student perspective here is so wonderful. Oh, and I caught him off guard.
I was hoping I'd go later, so that way, like some of the chisel. There are a ton, and let me at least focus on some of the students sort of like run programs. For those of you who might be coming from a smaller school, or a liberal arts school, or something abroad, there are a ton of student organizations some that are graduate only, some that have a mix of grad and undergraduate. Like there's a really wonderful like Women of Color in STEM that's been a burgeoning program here, where we've had a lot of folks who have that's been a great incubator. People have gone on to like sort of AAAS fellowships and really become sort of leaders in promoting diversity, particularly of women in STEM fields. And that sort of started with sort of student initiative within the departments and things like that. There are a lot of really great within department resources that I'll just kind of highlight. So there are different like caucuses. Political science has the Women's Caucus. There's I think Iranian student engineers, which covers a few of the different disciplines in there. There are a variety that go on at the school and department level that really help facilitate and enhance your local communities within like your programs of study, in addition to some of the more campus-wide ones that I'm sure all the other folks on the panel will sort of discuss. But that's the nice thing, is sort of not only is it just sort of a broad campus effort, but there is also a lot of work to try and sort of meet you at home to really make sure that inclusion isn't just sort of a broad thing or something you go off into, when you're out of the lab or you're out of the classroom, but something that can meet you at home as well.
Fantastic. And since I know that Ruth was already typing an answer to this question, we'll have her voice a few things as well. Oh, you're still on mute.
There we go. So I did send a resource within our office who is a good contact person and has a lot of information. His name is Craig Farmer. His email is ckfarmer@uci.edu, and I did put that in the response. I also put a link to the list of campus organizations, which Connor kind of mentioned. Unfortunately, you'll get all the campus organizations on that site, but you can search it. And I would absolutely check with your program that you've been admitted to and ask them what kind of organizations, student groups, or what have you might be available to students, or sometimes students are interested in professional organizations, and your program is generally a good source of information for that as well. We have a number of diversity related recruitment fellowships that our office provides. Usually students are nominated for those by their program that they've been admitted to. Programs can also offer different types of recruitment fellowships, to incentivize students. It just depends on the program itself and the funding it has available. So those are some resources, but yeah, we have so many different groups on campus, and some are just, more informal groups organized by students, and some are actual formal groups, which would appear on the list of campus organizations. But the other thing to do is, check with some of the students in your program as well.
Fantastic. Would anyone else like to add anything to that list? Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Chang.
Well, I'll just say that, as our Student Health Center, we provide service to each and every one of our students as they come in through our doors. As you can imagine, we work very closely with our Disability Service Center. So either long-term disabilities or newly acquired acute disabilities, making sure that we provide the medical information and support as needed to provide those accommodations, either long-term, short-term, for housing, for the classroom. I think we do a wonderful job, but we still meet regularly with our LGBT departments on campus to ensure communications, language, terminology, that we're trying to keep ourselves up to date as providers here at the Student Health Center. Specifically for our trans patients, we have one provider that's her kind of area, her outreach, to make sure that any type of treatments, surgeries, that we follow very closely. We're also very fortunate to have a gender diversity program at the UC Medical Center that we work very closely with as well. So there was a question that came up earlier. Do we provide, support for chronic illness? Of course we do. And we also know our limits. And so we also partner with our specialists in the community. And there was a question about alternative care. So chiropractic, acupuncture. We work very closely with the Samueli Institute for Integrative Care. We have chiropractic on site, so 3 days a week. And it's something that I'll share with you. 20 years ago when I was training, it was kind of on the fringe of medicine and healthcare. Now it's typical. So acupuncture is covered, acupressure is covered, chiropractic is covered, all these referrals are covered. So a diversity of services to our students that might find that to be a support.
And just to quickly add to that, to make a plug for some of the units under Dr. Hayashida's division, the folks at the counseling center, as well as some of the different centers, either in collaboration with them or independently, have a variety of the sort of intersectionally or design programs, whether that can be through support groups. Like I know there was some that were mentioned through CARE, but some of our other sort of student-facing centers like the LGBTQRC, some of the International Center, have a variety of sort of groups where students can empower, uplift, and resource each other, as well as some of the clinicians within the counseling center specialize in which is really, really great in providing services to students from a variety of different under-resourced and marginalized backgrounds. So you really get a much higher quality of care at the campus than you might actually expect. So really check them out. Do not feel inhibited to utilize them because they're excellent.
Thanks for the shout out, Connor. I would just add to linguistic issues as well. So there are providers who speak a variety of languages from a variety of backgrounds as well, who can conduct therapy, for example, in Spanish or in a variety of other languages, Mandarin, for example. And so hopefully that makes people feel like, these services are for everybody and excluding nobody.
Thank you so much for that. Oh, go ahead.
Just one other thing. This actually is a partnership, I believe, with the Counseling Center. In the GPSRC, we have a new series that we're still working out a little bit, but it's called Identity Awareness. And this, I believe, I'm not the person running it, but I believe this will be kind of supportive for URM students. It will likely be themed each week. So, some of that DEI programming and also some self-care and support group kind of programming. As was mentioned also, this isn't specific to diversity, but we are also working with the CARE office, which is the office that can provide some support for those experiencing sexual violence, things like that. We have a trauma-informed workshop and a self-care workshop with them. So we are always trying to expand in that area. And so also if you are finding that you would like to see some more programs in that area, definitely talk with the GPSRC programmers. We are always very responsive to program requests.
Yeah, I'll just give a shout out there that some of our most popular certificate programs came from graduate students who had ideas about things that they would like to see and worked with our staff to develop those programs. So yes, don't be shy about any of those. So I want to note, we put a lot of links in the chat. We've answered a lot of questions, I think somewhere around 100 questions, and you might be feeling overwhelmed and nervous right now with all of that information. This is being recorded and will be archived on our website, and we will also post all of the links from the chat that were shared beneath the archive of the recording. So you'll be able to go and get this information again if you were madly scrambling down your notes and are worried that you missed something. I also see we've got more questions in there than we'll have time to answer. So I want to, again, really encourage you. Be sure to email the grad housing website. Be sure to email the graduate division, but also reach out to your program director. Often there are very specific things that might be locally of concern, particularly about your funding packages or when individual programs start or when things might be happening for your specific program. So don't be shy about reaching out with those questions, especially over the summer as things come up. That's exactly when people are looking to, help you get settled in and answer all of those questions. I'm going to close the panel and see if everyone can answer the very first question we got. So if you're here, whoever registered and asked this question, what were the biggest lessons of your graduate program? Whew, that is a tough one, but we do have a lot of people who either have graduate degrees or will within a few weeks. And so I want to encourage those of us on the panel who have been there, who have gone through graduate school, however long ago it may have been for some of us. What are some lessons that you took from that you can share with our incoming graduate students? Anyone dying to go first?
I'll go. I'm probably the oldest panelist, and I'm also a UCI alum. I did my graduate studies here at UCI back in the 1980s. I lived on campus, and I will just say my advice would be create a strong friend and support network, whether it's through your program, whether it's in your housing community, with your roommates or with your neighbors, but not getting isolated and having that support network is really critical, because graduate school can be isolating at times and you really need that support network. And the other thing I would say is, as you've heard today, there's tons of really wonderful resources on campus. Don't hesitate to reach out and use those resources and ask for help, because people are here wanting to help. Absolutely.
Thank you. Who's next? I'll start calling up people if I have to. Connor, good job. Good sport.
All right. I'll go back. You got it. I'll go back to what I had said at the start. Because this is such a young, energetic campus, both like as a sort of just a general culture, but then for many of the programs, some of them a couple years old, some that legacy ones that sort of came here when the campus started 50 years ago. That if you look through the history of all of our great successes, between the people who won Nobel Prizes, who joined the National Academy, the graduate students who themselves have gone on to incredible careers in public service and in industry and in academia, there's a consistent theme that they've always been asking, what's next? Right? We don't have ivory towers. You can look at Dean Hayes' picture behind you, right? We are sort of young. We're always trying to figure out what is the next thing we need to think about. It's for that reason that UCI has been like on the leading edge of stuff on social ecology, climate science, right? About understanding sort of the new political realities of a globalized world. Like sort of within every discipline are people who are really trying to figure out what is the next chapter. And so because that is so much of our identity, always be willing to kind of figure out, use that as an opportunity to ask what you might think is a silly question, or to come up, posit something that you think might be kind of outrageous because no one's asked it before, and it's specifically because nobody thought of it, that will make it so innovative and so interesting. And you have a wonderfully collaborative community to sort of support that and take that little seedling and make it something neat.
Thank you so much for that. And Kayleigh, go ahead. I see your hand up.
Hi, everyone. The first thing, this isn't advice as much as I just want to reinforce to everyone, like, you got in, you belong here. That's a big thing. Keep that in mind. Don't forget that. It can really mess with you. The other thing that I would say is explore. I know that many people are starting out, they think they know exactly what they want to do after grad school. Maybe you are correct. But you get a little bit of freedom in graduate school, and it's a great time to explore both in terms of what you want to do after grad school, but it's also a learning experience that maybe you don't want to do something. So for example, we have a community college internship program, and maybe that's what you think you want to do. But sometimes people might take that program and realize that's exactly what they don't want to do, right? And that's great to find out before you're in a full-time position there. So I want to encourage you to explore both professional development, but also everything. There's so many resources on campus, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Or the other advice is don't be afraid to like make appointments just because you haven't fully formulated your question yet. It's okay if you come into my office and you're like, I'm stuck. Can we talk through this? And there's no one on campus I've met that would not be appropriate for that kind of conversation. So again, you do belong. Do want to remind you.
I love the point about coming and talking to people, Kayleigh. This is the moment where I will say to you, throughout the week, each of my associate deans and I have office hours, one day each week. I had 2 students come today. They're often empty, but I had 2 come today, one who had a challenge they were going through and one who just wanted to chat and think about things. And both of those are great, and we are psyched to have you come. So the link to get to the Zoom office hours is online, and Derek will put it in the chat somewhere, I'm sure. You can come and talk to us even now, even before you're officially our student. We're here and we're happy to talk to you one-on-one. And again, as Ruth said earlier, if we don't know the answer to something, we probably know who does. And so we can help you source all of that. Anyone else want to share their big lessons from graduate school? Sure. Dr. Chang.
So guys, for me, it's pace yourself, it's know yourself. So I remember working so hard to get into medical school, got into Boston. So I flew across the country, went to Boston. Then I'm like, once I got in, I was like, what the heck did I do to work so hard to be where I am, you know? And it's really about knowing it's going to be difficult, but knowing yourself and then pacing yourself. So difficult to do, but time management, prioritization. You've got to, and I love what Kayleigh said about exploring, but explore for yourself. Like, look to see what you love and enjoy about Southern California, about exercise, about art, about anything that's out there. So continue to grow, because these are the things that will keep you balanced. These are the things that will get you through the difficult times, to kind of know yourself and what you're here for, while you're still focusing on that ultimate goal. And when it does get tough, know yourself to know your limits and go seek support, wherever that is. Everyone here is behind you 1000%. It may not always seem like it. Like, we have healthcare policy that I got to make you jump through hoops for, but it's ultimately keep you here, to keep you happy. My success is in your physical health, your mental health, your academic health and success. We're all here for that. So don't wait. Don't be too proud to go get support and help, right? You'll be humbled more than you know, more than you expect to know. We've all been there, but you grow from that and you go forward. So that's my little bit of advice.
Oh my goodness, I'm so happy that you say you'll be humbled. I think that's the primary thing I took from going to graduate school. I was used to, as so many of you probably are, being one of the smartest people. And then you go to grad school and look at that. Everybody's one of the smartest people. And you are humbled by that, but it's also such an amazing opportunity. I am just seriously giddy every day that I get to get up and go to work with some of the smartest people you'll ever know anywhere. And that is such a privilege and an honor. So once you get over being humbled, it's really an exciting place and time to be. Anyone else want to add a last piece of advice or lesson from their own graduate school experience? All right, well, with that, we will wrap this up. Again, I want to remind you, if you have a friend or your partner or your kids that want to know what the heck you're going to do, this recording will be available to you. And if you panicked and didn't get all of the email addresses and all of the links that we shared with you, those will all be below the recording as well. So big thank you to Derek and Marcelle and Zitlali and the whole team who puts together these town halls. And a sincere thank you to all of our panelists here. These are some of the busiest people on campus, and they take their time out to come and talk with all of you because we so want to answer your questions and make sure you feel welcome and ready to come and be successful here at UCI. So congratulations again to all of you. We look forward to seeing you in the fall. Reach out with any questions. That's that.